Hello and welcome to another edition of Low Code Campfire. This is edition 51 from May 2022. This is Open Lines Friday. We don't have a particular topic to discuss, but we'll get into that in a minute. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Dale Warner. I am Head of Support for PlantinApp. We do this meeting every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time, and this is an all skill levels welcome event where we talk about what's going on with low code in general, PlantinApp in specific, and if you have either a challenge or an experience or something that you need some help with, this is an opportunity to just talk with folks. It's a great community. We record all these and they go up on our YouTube channel in the days following each event. We have 50 episodes out here now, so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/PlantinApp. We do a pretty informal agenda. We go around we say hi and introduce ourselves if you're new to especially if you're new to the group. We go around the campfire and just do first call, what's on your mind, and that's often the biggest segment. But we take a look at some of our other things like contributions to our shared website and feature requests. You can submit topics in advance. I invite you to stick around after an hour or so. We'll turn off the recording and have our afterglow segment, just an opportunity to sit back and talk about any topics that you might not want recorded for all time. We have very few guidelines, but just be nice and mute your microphone if you've got noise going on behind you. As I mentioned, you could submit questions and topics in advance. And with that, good morning, everyone. Okay, you're muted, Jerry.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ben.
So,
Good morning,
hello. Just on a personal level, I have to say, Jerry remains my hero. I start to see him out racing the motorbikes and acting like a young person, even though I think he's got about as many miles on him as I do. So very cool.
I probably do, Dale. But so on that topic, I got asked, for those that don't know, I'm a retired professional motorcycle racer too. So I did that for Team Honda years ago in the motocross, supercross world. And I got asked a couple of months ago to race a vintage motorcycle race because they felt like I'm so old, I would know how to ride these bikes from the 70s, Dale.
Yeah.
And so we've been building a bike for 2 months, and I've been training on that thing every day, is what you've been seeing, and trying to be at one with a bike that's 48 years old. It's proven to be a struggle because I'm used to riding all this modern, high technology equipment. And we go back 45 years and ride these things. It's kind of crazy. So bear with me on the social media. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see you're showing up and you seem to be in generally good health. So that's a good deal.
It's a process. It's a process.
So if you're new to the group, I encourage you to say hello and introduce yourself. Please do that.
There we go.
All right. Moving on, we will go to first call. Anybody got something hot and burning that we should talk about? Okay,
I don't have any real questions for you, but I do want everybody to know that I've been away for a few weeks for other reasons, but mostly built around PlantinApp because I've just been so darn busy programming, and it just seems like this time schedule has kind of freaked with me for the last few weeks, but I hope to be back on track now. But I always watch, Dale, after the fact. It's just part of my day to pull up my YouTube channel. So I look forward to when you post them, and I've listened to you guys talk and banter among it and enjoy it. But I remain open if anybody on this board ever needs me for any reason. I'm just a phone call or an email away, even though if I can't make every show.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everything each of you have contributed because it's amazing information for me.
Well, I do love the questions as well, and yeah, I'm trying to figure out, is this a show or a meeting? I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I'm glad you enjoy the episodes. And you're saying that that you're working and programming away, so you know that those are interesting phases when you go deep and have to work hard.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole work thing it gets in the way of my fun part of my life. It really does. It's quite problematic, actually.
Rearrange your priorities.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, on a side note,
Yes.
my son is coming along really nicely. I transitioned him, as I had mentioned maybe months ago, that I've been teaching him SQL Server. He's 18 years old. He's going to be graduating high school someday, and I'm hoping to bring him on and have him employed with us right out of school. And but I have now shifted my attention to Planta app and the low code process, and so I hope to maybe in the next month when he gets out of school for the summer, I hope to bring him onto our boards and let him be a part of these meetings and get to know everybody, and we can throw challenges at him and task and let him do it. But he's coming along, so there'll be two of us on here soon.
Well, that'll be good. With that, I didn't know, is he taking advantage of the Low Code Academy? If he's not part of it, he could be.
He is, and he's not. Meaning, I have been teaching him first. I've been giving him the overview and the lay of the land on Planta app, and then that was my intent, was to move him to the Low Code Academy. Personally, I've never gone through that process, and I didn't know where we were in the development of that. If it's
Yep.
you know, if it's really solid and stuff like that, but
Well,
yeah, it's definitely part of my agenda.
It's
Push him through that.
it's
a really good
first
time.
major overhaul is underway right now. So so it's being updated to the to update all the UI from to the current Plantain app. So
Yeah,
that's in process right now.
I was going to mention that this is I guess what you call the second generation. It did well. I mean, we went through the first and first iteration. We ran a class of people through it. It was I think it was useful for the purpose. And then as we continued to develop the interface, some of those videos fell behind. So yeah, Patrick is right in the middle of re-recording those, and I think somewhere in the range of half updated at this point. Is that correct?
Getting there, yeah.
Yeah, and just to let you know, that's part of our onboarding process at Plantain app. We have all of our new employees take the academy class.
And what would the expectation? It seems to my recollection is there's about 7 major segments of the course. Is that true?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So whether you crammed through it and went through it in a big hurry, or spread it out over the course of 7 or 8 weeks, but you could definitely get a really good exposure to the whole product in something like that time. It's more than a month ago, we mentioned the possibility of a crop of students going through the Low Code Academy in a group associated with a company called Launch Code, and we're proceeding with that. It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing some people from that new group coming to Campfire over the course of the next couple months, and maybe asking some questions and picking your brains, and so we'll see some of those here. We are actively. I think we're optimistic there'll be a crew of maybe 25 or so. We'll see how wide it goes, but it's a good opportunity to we're bringing people in who are interested in learning low code, and hopefully that'll continue to just expand the enthusiasm for our product and grow the employee pool for those of you who are looking for that. All right, what else? First call, what's going on? I took a look over at our Campfire website for anyone who is new to the group. If you will shoot me your email, we have a website called campfire.plantanapp.com that we put techniques that you might be interested in, something that you might want to incorporate into your projects. We build those in the Campfire website and make them available for you to use. So if you're not part of that and you want to be, just put your email to me on the private chat, and we'll add you to it. But there was nothing new out there this week. We'll hold feature requests for a minute. Oh yeah, ghost stories. That's a good one. Anybody have a ghost story this week? Something you're chasing, something that didn't work as you expected it to, or you had to hunt down.
I think my ghost story of the week was discussed on the Low Code Cafe.
Yeah, but worth repeating.
Yeah, there was I had a situation where somebody had copied a conditional statement from a bind expression into their validation conditional statement. And it took me just forever to figure out what was wrong with the form before I finally looked at that validation statement and saw, oh, that's not correct C#. So that's why that's the reasoning why that was brought up in the Low Code Cafe, because that was something I was troubleshooting for someone, and it just took forever to find it, because there was nothing in the browser console that really pointed me towards it.
Those, as we pointed out during the cafe meeting webinar, there's two different syntaxes. There's the C# syntax for certain things and JavaScript syntax for other things. They tend to divide up that way. I think based on whether their front end on the browser is JavaScript, right? And back end is C#. And those syntaxes are very, very close for things like where you're testing equal and not equal. But where it comes off the rails is in areas like contains or
the specific instance for the person I was working with, that they were using .includes for their bind expression, which of course is running on the front end, so it's JavaScript, and then they took that and pasted it into their the validation condition, and that runs on submit, so it's a server-side statement and is C#.
For the most part, they're easy, but and then the one that makes me crazy, that's kind of insidious. One syntax has what is it? Index of. They both have index of, but one's capitalized with an I and one's small case. It's
yes.
And then that'll little things like that'll just make it crazy. Anyone else with a ghost story? I don't know how far we can stretch this campfire metaphor.
Somebody has a problem out there. I know they do.
All right. Man, how did I already get to next week? I had there was maybe I got into the wrong spot here. There was a case that was kind of interesting on the one of the submitted cases on a user was trying to say, okay, I have this entity that's defined in Plant an App, and I have a document that people can upload. It's uploading the document, but how can I get people to, I want to display that. Now that I have the document, I want to be able to display it and make it be downloadable. And this is one of those tokens that one of these cases where you need to use a token like file Getlink. And so that kind of fits into our discussion from last week about how to, some of the less documented or less used tokens. And so I thought I'd bring up our tokens and just take a look at that one. So within core tokens, there's a lot of them. Let's see, the file token has attributes where you can say file get link and you give it a file ID, and I just copied and pasted this right into the presentation, but you could do something like you can give it a number or a relative path to the file, and it produces a link then that you can just directly insert into your form or listing. They can click on it and get it. So the thing that's stored when you're working with an entity that has a file, and I guess we can take a look at what that might look like. I'm not going to do a whole entity, but my file, if you have a an item of type document, where's that what's actually getting stored in your database for my file is a file ID. So now you can use you could pass in whatever your entity is :my file into that that file token that we're just taking a look at, and it would produce a link that you can then display that in on a form. So that was an interesting case that came up. Anyone struggle with that or question about that? If you guys are quiet all the time,
So I'll wake you up, Bill. So,
all right, thank you.
not so much about that token, but I've never used the document table there that you just pointed out. I mean, for the images, the built-in images table and things like that. Are there reasons to use those? I've always just had, if I have a file link, I just attach it in my file. But are there advantages to using the built-in document or image table entities?
It's probably worth just working through one if you guys are, especially if you're going to be quiet, right? So let's do one. The advantage, of course, is going to be some of the pre-built things that happen automatically. So we'll call this Campfire 51 entity that we'll build, and so we'll have Campfire 51s, and we'll put it under a I'm in the wrong spot. Okay. I was thinking I was on Campfire here. I'm not. So this will be find a home. It doesn't matter. We'll let it be at the root. It's fine. We have one called entities. We'll let it be under entities. So we'll have, let's do one of each. Person's name, their ID, document. Papers can get uploaded as a document. And their picture. And we'll let that be it. We'll have a name property as the display name. Let's see what we get. So I'm just going to navigate right to that page in a new tab. So we automatically get choose file for these different things. Let's see if I have some files that would be useful. Typically a PDF, maybe. Sure, here's some kind of PDF. I think this is actually a gift certificate from Amazon, so you guys can steal my money here and pick a JPEG. That's a good one. Got my grandson and my wife in it. So we'll add those. So automatically we get this link to the PDF, this link to the JPEG. And so, for example, if we click that, it's automatically got my my document, and the JPEG links to my picture. My grandson there. If we take a look at what was built, for the papers. So papers was the name of our column, and there was a portal file link was the formatting. So that's the thing that's automatically getting us the link to that document. But if you wanted to create your own link to the document and maybe format it differently than what was going on here, that's where you could use that file link. So we could do, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going on farther than maybe you asked. Jerry, excuse me, Jim, does that give you some kind of example of what automatically is going on there?
The other thing that you might mention, Dale, is that it's creating a folder structure as well. So if we go to site assets, we can see that they created a structure for the entity.
Where it would be missing from my implementation of where I use files and things like that is any way of filtering those documents to some sort of other entity or linking them so that not everyone on the site has access to all the documents.
Yeah, I was curious about something along those lines too, from a security standpoint. If the URL for that document is secure, regardless of where it shows up on a page, I've got a scenario where the document needs to be only accessible by specific users.
So that,
go ahead.
Yeah, that if we look in the properties of the folder structure that gets created, it actually follows along with the permissions that we give it within Plant and App. So you'll see, for example, that we're automatically, we got citizen developers and low-code engineers and managers, but not users, right? So if we were, it's following, and I got to open up another tab. We'll get to another tab. Yep. So if we were to go back to these entities and, you know, it's following these permissions as were defined here. So if you wanted to add roles and control it that way, it's going to automatically default the folders appropriately as well. Did I cover that the way you were about to, Patrick?
I'm curious. Yeah. Okay, so let's say you're doing let's say it's a bank or something. You're doing a bank and you've got, you know, Dale's bank statement that's loaded into the thing. And obviously you don't want anyone else in the system to have access to Dale's bank statement except for Dale and, you know, maybe some bank managers or something. Is there a way to lock it down on a user basis programmatically, I guess is what I'm going for, so that you can have file management, but you're not creating a plethora of, you know, roles, you know, that you're putting in there?
Yep. So I'm just going to do a first take on that, and I'd love other takes. I think one way to handle that would be to make sure that the folder that they get uploaded to is secured away from users. And then in the case where you want to let the user display the statement where you validated who they are, that you could use actions to copy it to a temporary folder with a GUID type name that then the user would have access to download or use a link this file ID link that I was showing earlier. I think that generates a single use or at least an obscured link to the file. Other thoughts about how to handle that? It's a good one.
Well, I would say it would, at least from my perspective, I've done similar things with uploading files. I haven't gotten so far as restricting it per user as much as per role, but you could programmatically set up your actions. I mean, it would be a large file structure, but it would be similar to the users folder. You could create a folder and then apply permissions specifically for that folder. Although again, I believe those permissions, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they are role-based only. You can't apply permissions to a user for a folder. So if that's the case, then you would still need to create roles for each user. So it would, if you're trying to limit per user, it'll probably get a little hairy with a lot of different permissions.
I thought,
A display name, it looks like you
yeah,
can
the
do.
display name one. Yep.
Yeah, so then, yeah, you should be able to then apply a folder permission to a specific user that way. So programmatically, you'd be able to do that. And then just create a folder, give permission just to that user, and then dump their files into that folder programmatically and just give them access to it. So it should be feasible. It's just going to take a little bit of working with the actions to get it done.
Is there actions that are apply a permission type actions that are just built into the system?
This is going in.
I want to say yes. Hold on. I'm going to pull up something because I've just recently written something to do pretty much just that. Let me just pull it up really quick.
While Ben's pulling that up, there's nothing special about that table. It still exists as a SQL table, but the documents table, right? So you could have a secondary table of user IDs and somehow link them and use a view or something with your own SQL statement to filter those links coming back to you where you use it. So on the back end, the full document table would only be available to admins or somebody, but by role, and then the SQL select could be used based on a joined table.
So we have an action alter folder permissions. And you
I was just going to say that. I got to it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was a race. So you can pick the folder either, I mean, if it's a static kind of a folder, you can choose it, but you can provide an expression and then provide a relative folder name or a folder ID. You can assign a particular role or a username. This would be, you'd be able to do it by token. So if you had the user, for example, token, or whatever token contains that, and you can assign rewrite or browse capability into it. So programmatically, yes, you could, and then I think I saw it in here. We'll take a look at other add. So there is
There's get or create folder.
Yeah,
if you to create them.
Get or create a folder.
Yep.
So you could create it on a temporary basis, you could set a flag to clean it up at some point, or when the user logs out, or whatever event you're looking for. So you could create it temporarily. Interesting. I wonder. Yep. So it lets you say what you want to create. I haven't used these. This is interesting. Folder, delete folder. I wonder if anyone know for certain it'll just delete it, whether there's content in it or not. I assume it would delete the path, and oh yeah, delete the subfolders and their content. There's a checkbox. So
You can also create a folder with the file upload action as well. If you tokenize, if you expression the folder, just for additional knowledge there. When you upload a file, you can create a new folder at that point as well,
just
using
by
the
naming it.
using the expression option for the folder path. Yep.
You dropped that earlier, Patrick, and I was going to come back to that. I was waiting to come back to that. I've actually used that and found good value in that. I like that. Let it create the folder for me.
Yeah, it's very useful.
So now I see we have move and pack as well. So it looks like you could zip it up and send it. You can archive it, put it somewhere in a zip file. So you could build up a set of results, for example, and zip it up and then send it to people. Anybody happen to know what branch these are in?
I think it's file management, maybe.
Yeah,
they are.
So, yep. So then there's also renames, save. Oh, you can unpack a zip. So people can upload a zip and do things. So lots of capabilities that I've never had called to use. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to set that aside for a second and continue with. So the example that I was showing, this Getlink, here on the presentation. But if we were to create a template that uses the papers token, which is the number, and just so showing the example of both the papers ID and also the Getlink. Let's see what we get out of that. So if we refresh our, we gotta go to it here, our 51s. So its value is 859, and it gives something like link click with a file ticket. So it's quite obscured, and although so it's going to keep it from being guessed, but you'd have to format that into some HTML. So let's see if we call this the custom, and we'll do some allow HTML in here. It would look something like this is our link. So look up some HTML to know how to do a link, but it's something like that. And so now we have a custom download link. If we click it, we got our gift certificate. So good question. What else can we explore about that? I assume the same thing is going on with the JPEG. I didn't look. The picture is, yeah, same thing. It's a portal file link. And so it's showing you the file name by default. If you wanted to show the picture in the files, how would we do that? Surely that can't be hard. Okay. We're going to have a file ID. Oh, but the link is a click link, is a link. You can't use that as an image source, can you? I'm guessing. Just going to leave me out here. Okay.
I think you got it.
Yeah, we need a little bit of size stuff going, but so you could display your images directly in the row. So this is a custom picture display now, and maybe throw in a so those are some ways that you can use those custom image and documents. What else should we dig into?
So is the document stored as a table somewhere or a reference to it, or is it going out to the file system to find those?
It is stored as a table. I think it's called documents. Let's take a look.
I couldn't find it in the
Files. It's files.
File.
Yeah.
See if we can find our most recent ones here. So, yep. So this, all that's stored in the entity by default is 859. The ID. So we have our PDF, our JPEG, and I'm gonna just do top two so that we can focus in on the ones that we just created. So if you were to create that table, you could see the type, the folder number, created, modified, it's got a unique ID, built a hash, that's interesting. Modification, the name of the folder. Oh, so a lot of capability. So you could do a SQL query against the ID and pull all that stuff back.
I don't know if anybody has, recalls this or not gotten this far with Academy, but on the Academy, we when you take an exam, you receive a certificate, and you can download that certificate, and we have functionality on the Academy to verify the authenticity of the certificate, and the way we do that is using the hash. that you were just looking at. So that's a use that we actually use on one of our sites for that hash.
So for example, somebody wanted to verify the authenticity, what they would have to upload the document.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you're able to, it's going to compute the same hash.
Yep. And if there's been any sort of alteration to the file, the hash won't match.
Cool. That sounds like a Radu thing.
Radu gave me the idea. I implemented it, but Radu definitely gave me the idea.
So we could then also take this query and have our own little security table that ties out to it, rather than play with the folder permissions. Have a security table but with users and file IDs, and then do a select between the two to get for anything we want to display. Nothing. They're all on the same server.
Right. So, there's kind of just if the file names are, the files are going to exist on your server so long as they're, unguessable names. That's one level of security, right? If the resume is called Dale Warner resume, somebody might guess that and be able to download it. If it's got a GUID on it, then that would make it unguessable. So then you just need to, how do you? It could be, for example, and this is going back to where I started, right? You might store them in a folder that's actually not that DNN prevents people from browsing or accessing at all, and then you move them to a public place with an unguessable name so that only the user would see it, and you would remove it when it's gone. But yes,
Yeah,
to your question, you could manage it yourself.
We call that security through obscurity.
Yes. So now I'm curious, and I just, it's kind of about proving the point. This hash thing, if I do the same, this is what is this that I'm in? This is the papers. So I'm going to do the same document. We'll do the same picture. Just be interested to see the same hash code being generated. So go back here and do top. So this PDF on rows 1 and 3 with the same hash code. Yep, very cool. Nice way to do that. I always learn something new from you guys. Appreciate that.
I kind of, I think Dale, this is something you suggested right at the beginning, but I kind of like that idea of if you have these files that you want to be very secure, that you keep them in a location that only say DNN or Planting App administrators or low-code engineers or something like that can access, and then presenting the file to the user through a change user when you're as you're presenting it to them. I think that seems like a nice solution. So
you mean a load?
A load user, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's
yeah.
After you've verified it that it's a file that they should be allowed to access.
Yep. So I was doing a little bit more brute force load. I have no idea if load user. I assume it would work, but I was thinking in terms of having a public folder or creating a public folder and copying. So now there's more activity going on, but making it where it's fully fully visible, at least to that user, and then removing it. But it'd be interesting to understand if load user would work. Load user works within our context, but I don't know what
Right.
DN would think of it.
Yeah, I feel like I've done something like that before, but I'd have to proof it out.
The only thing you have to be careful with in a situation like that, Dale, copying to a public folder, is the cleanup.
Yeah,
Because
you have to
you
delete the file right away. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You can't.
Yep.
Can't delete the file if you're offering a download, because then you delete the file before the user downloads it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you have to incorporate some other mechanism, most likely some sort of a timer
Mhm.
that cleans up that folder, X many minutes or something to that effect. You have to have something outside of whatever your download mechanism is to identify that those files are now ready for download. Can't do it immediately in your stack, because then the person won't be able to get the file.
Yep. And
I've had that bite me, so that's how I'm speaking from experience.
Yes. And that action that we were just looking at a little while ago, the delete folder, if you've created a custom folder for the user, that might help with that. And I was wondering if now I'm kind of curious on our list of on our actions, if we can get a list of files that are in a folder. Does anybody know that one?
Well, I know with the multiple file uploader field, you can browse a folder, but
I've always written Razor scripts to get the list of files that are inside a folder. I've done that in the past to do zipping and stuff like that.
I've done that too.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have an action to return all the file names. Looks like you could archive it and then get them that way, but that's a little bit of extra work. Yeah, because thinking in terms of if you create files, you either need to be able to delete the entire folder, say 10 minutes after you created it, you give them whatever period to download, or you have to keep a list of all the names that got created so that you can know to delete them, or as you point out, a Razor script to go find them. Kind of nice to be able to get a list of files. Nope. I don't see it. All right. Cool. This has been an interesting direction. We have 10 minutes left. What else? Anybody working on anything fun or new or outside their normal area? And while you're thinking about that, I'm also going to ask about I wonder if any of you consider yourselves to be no coders. I think the people that show up to this group generally are low and full coders, but I wonder if anybody considers himself a no coder, where you're just using an app out of the box. We're going to be doing a webinar coming up, and I'm looking for victims. I have a couple of victims already, one for low coder and one for full coder, and trying to figure out how to represent no coders. It goes for you internal people as well. If you could think of somebody that comes in that just totally falls into the no code level, I'd love to hear about it. Maybe off this call. Okay. Well, There's no law against ending early, so I think I'm going to do.
I do have
Okay.
a question. I have a project that for the first time I'm going to have to use in Planet App, use a tree view as a part of the requirement. Are there any gotchas in using tree views to that I should be
Yes.
watching for?
I'm going to assume that there are, but I don't know. I haven't used them before myself. Anyone using, this is the one you're talking about?
Right. At least that's the one I'm thinking I'm talking about.
Yeah, I had one, but I don't remember it anymore.
If you are curious and want to see a rather complex implementation of it, you can check out the SQL console page that's in every Plant app installation.
Beat me to it. I was going to say the only place
I
I know that I've seen it
Yeah.
is in that SQL console.
Yeah, so that's one of the more complex implementations. So that right there, the list of tables is that's a item picker tree view field.
Okay. Can you, is that page actually a page that?
Yeah, you can access that. Yeah, through your pages menu.
You have to make sure in general that you have SQL console turned on though.
Yes,
Or you
SQL
won't see
console
it as an option.
Exactly. Yep.
Jim, there's also a video available where you can see, I think it's Radu making a file manager page using that control.
Yes, that's what
It's
I
not
did as well.
Yeah, it's not a cafe. I think it's one of the videos before we started doing all that stuff. So maybe it's on the 1001 page. I'm not sure.
I think it's on the 1001 page. I took that example as well for a file manager.
Yeah, isn't that on a couple of sites? I rebuilt that as well.
It's kind of nice if you want to have users have a simple file manager and add button for files.
And in this example, we're doing a proof of concept for an HR application where we want managers to be able to drill down and see their subordinates and the subordinates under those. And we had previously built the app in ASP.NET with the tree view, and it had gotten built by somebody else without it, and all the users complained. Now they want it back.
It's always those users.
Yeah. I could just have access to their checkbook without them, it'd be a lot easier.
So
You haven't seen
yeah,
That one there. Yep.
lovely. Filled it all up with a bunch of SQL. Interesting. So yeah, great example. Good point. And saw how I got in there with viewing the page and then going into edit mode. We and just since we talked about that, the best practice here is it's possible to change this stuff, right? But it's also it's going to get replaced when you upgrade. Isn't that our correct policy?
Right. Yep. Yep. If
So,
you make changes to pages, they'll be overwritten on upgrade. Yep.
if you wanted a custom SQL console, you could copy this form off this page onto a page of your own, and then it would be safe and static, and you could do your own thing with it. But absent that, if you were to make any changes here, it's going to get overwritten. So, yep, good. Good question. I did not know that. This just highlights, of course, that we're trying to write more and more of our product in low code. So this is a form rather than custom code. And we're undertaking some other work right now. And I don't think it would be top secret if I shared that the configuration updates page, we are working to turn that into low code as well. So instead of it being controlled by custom program that instead it'll be listings and with checkboxes and buttons and our own. Of course, I'm logged out. Of course, I'm logged out. And we should, this is something that we'll be probably talking about more in the next couple of weeks in the cafe that we're releasing this. But assuming that it all comes to fruition, I don't know that it's going to be a huge experience difference for you to see these. Particularly, we're focusing on this hotfixes page. But there'll be a few niceties in here. For example, when we have multiple hotfixes, right now we've made the point if there's multiple hotfixes for the same product that if you pick one of them, it's going to roll up all of them that have a lower version number, things like that. We're going to make that more visible and explicit on the screen.
A little easier selection too of what you'd like to upgrade. All, one, none.
Yep. And these will, this also solves and kind of helps us accelerate from a development standpoint, because internally our developers and QA people and all need the ability to get a hold of these bug fixes, and yet we can't publish them until it's time for you to see them. So we're adding more control of the ability to what gets displayed here, and so it helps us internally as well. But we are, bottom line, we're trying to do more and more with low code. Patrick recently redid roles and users as low code, their grids and forms now. So just helps us.
Help us help you.
More along the story, less custom code, more low code. Okay, so with that, and here's last chance, 3 minutes to go. All right, then we'll call it there. It's another good almost hour. Thank you guys for being here. I am going to stop the recording and we'll go into our afterglow segment. So anyone who wants to stick around, please do. We will be doing this event again next Friday, same hour. So please join us, and we will talk to you then.